morning, everybody. Another day and another set of results, but a very key set of results today. We're combining the success of the last year of drilling. A wonderful year was 2024 and the start of 2025, and we've upgraded our exploration target. The exploration target now stands at 8.1 million tonnes to 9.6 million tonnes, grading 8.3 gold equivalent to 10.6 gold equivalent. That equates to 2.2 million ounces to 3.2 million ounces at that grade and volume range. So it is quite the upgrade from the previous exploration target, which was a year ago. It just demonstrates how important this project is. It is now benchmarking as one of the key multi-million ounce high-grade deposits on Earth. This is another major milestone for the company as we go towards building this project. So this exploration target that we've put out today comes just over a year from the previous exploration target that we put out back in January 2024. So everything is essentially improved, of course, dramatically because of that wonderful drill success. So from the lower range to the upper range, our tonnages have increased from 84 to 89%. The gold equivalent grade is increased from 9 to 15% as we're collecting more data and have confidence in extrapolating some of those higher grades. The contained gold equivalent of metal has increased from 100 to 120% more. So we've more than doubled the contained metal. We now have covered 67% of 1.5 kilometers of the exploration target, as opposed to 50% of 1.2 kilometers earlier a year ago. So on every metric from tons, grade, and scale, this has become dramatically a lot bigger. The exploration target is drill constrained, and you'll see it's from 2/3 of the project strike length from Golden Dyke, from Rising Sun and Apollo areas. It excludes the Christina area because we just didn't have enough drill data there at this time to include it. So it's only 2/3 of the strike length to date. The drill holes constrain it, but the drill holes aren't close enough to put it in that lower risk category across that whole area into a resource at this stage, as our focus has been on drilling this to make this bigger. So this is very much a point in time, that 2.2 to 3.2 million ounces at that wonderful, very high grade. But how can this become bigger? Because we're all about future looking now that we've been able to quantify where we are in this point of time. Well, there's many geographic and spatial upside, as I mentioned. The Christina zone is not included. That's where we've drilled areas including 1.7 meters at 300 grams per ton equivalent. So lots of very high grades developing there and lots of upside going to depth. Of course, the extensions in and around Rising Sun haven't been constrained. So we've got results like 6 meters at 19 grams per ton that sit in isolation and haven't had enough drill holes around them to put those into the volume estimation. So even internally in one of our best parts of the system, Rising Sun, there's obvious gaps. As we go east, there's more mineralization that we don't have enough drill holes around to put it into this exploration target, including 0.9 meters at 42.8 grams per ton gold equivalent. Notwithstanding, this is only, around 5% of the volume of the larger 12-kilometer mineralized trend that extends 1 kilometer to 1.5 kilometers west of the exploration target and 10 or 11 kilometers to the east. So we put a few kilometers of drilling into that larger area. We're doing all that IP geophysics at the moment, lots of soil sampling and mapping, and dedicating one of the 6 rigs that are now at site to that larger area. Again, notwithstanding, we've drilled this down to about 1.1 kilometers at Rising Sun, and all the areas around it. Golden Dyke still has a lot more extent to go, and even Apollo Deep's going down to that 1 kilometer. But if we draw a line under that 1.1 kilometers, we know these systems around us at Costerfield and Fosterville go down to at least 2 kilometers. So there's potential for this system to essentially double at depth, and you'll see us putting in some deep holes around April, May to show the system does continue. One of the key aspects of any model, geological model, is estimating the grade into the very high grades. And we've got the same team modeling our mineralization at SRK that do the same resource work at Fosterville and Costerfield. So we're taking that learning. Now, we've been relatively conservative about these estimations as we're growing this. So we've top cut and range domain those high grades that form the cores to the main vein sets. And you'll see lots of information in the press release around those assumptions. An exploration target is not a mineral resource, and you'll see below me here the qualification. So we just don't have the drill density across the whole area to put it into a resource. So for example, an inferred resource, we'd need something like 50 meters up and down dip and 25 meters along each structure to put it into a resource. And we may have drill holes that are 100 meters spaced, and we're making assumptions of interpreting mineralization between those two drill holes. Very important that we understand the continuity of our mineralization. We've got 50 years of mining. We've got thousands and thousands of oriented drill core measurements. Every piece of drill core is diamond drilling and oriented, so we can start to see and understand the nature and the orientation of the structures. We've got that 50 years of historic mining that will inform us. And then importantly, there's one key number, the coefficient of variation, which is a detail here, but there's some very good figures showing the coefficient of variation that averages well below 2. In fact, is closer to 1 in many parts. If you're below 2 in the gold system, you know there's continuity of that data set. Now it's at the gold assays here. We know there's continuity between high grade and high grade in the high grade cores and the lower 2 to 10 gram material that forms the salvages to those high grades in the plus 70 structures, the vein sets that we have. So at every point, we know that we've got confidence at least around what we've got to the density of our data. And that's what drives us to be able to quote this exploration target with the confidence that we enunciate in this exploration target number. Now, it's the one key step towards drilling out a resource and then putting economic studies around that and then building a mine around it. The exploration target works very well with that confidence, with that low CV, because with a higher cost of capital at the moment, with where our market cap is as we're building this project, we don't have to go and drill it out too quickly, too early, and we're making that mineral inventory bigger. And we've already talked about many of the ways that this can become a lot bigger. Our job as explorationists and mine development builders is to continually de-risk projects. So this is very much a key milestone to de-risk the project and give investors a sense of the scale and the grade of the mineralization that we've identified. Now, we're obviously, this exploration target is very significant. The range from 2.2 to 3.2 million tons at that grade range of 8.3 to 10.6 grams puts this project into a very rarefied class, a multi-million ounce high-grade discovery. What's next is to put these exploration targets into a resource. Then we start putting economic studies. You start with lower confidence resources called inferred resources. You put a scoping or PEA study, preliminary economic assessment, around that. Then we put more and more drilling, ideally as our cost of capital gets lower, as our valuation increases, as we're building the project. We put indicated resources, and then we can start putting pre-feasibility studies or PFSs around these. And then ultimately, when you're ready to bank this, you get measured resources, and measured resources can become proven reserves. Indicated resources can become probable reserves. Reserves are mineable bodies that engineers put shapes around, and then you're going to full feasibility study with that de-risked, and you're going from plus or minus 30% from a PEA to plus or minus 20% to a PFS and plus or minus 10% or lower in a feasibility study. So it's continually de-risking. The value proposition for us at the moment is to make this bigger, which we're doing, but also narrow down or de-risk the project, which is one of the key steps away for de-risking this very large-scale project. The Victorian government has stated very clearly, and it's updated, or its first actually, a critical mineral strategy that came out in December, that it wants more mines. It wants to permit at least a mine per year. They permitted 2 mines in December. They have critical metal zones for fast tracking of critical metals projects. The antimony component, which is a little more than 20% in situ recoverable value in this project, makes this an extremely critical project. And you'll see the tonnages of antimony that we have extrapolated into this exploration target. That makes this project one of the larger projects in the Western world for antimony. That will garner support absolutely from governments who are chasing these antimony concentrates that this project can potentially provide in the future, and ideally not too long. You know, we're going down that de-risking path, and we need to bring these antimony concentrates to market probably quicker than anyone can ever imagine, I suspect. And that's certainly some of the discussions that we're having around the globe. So a very important mix. 80% gold will pay for it, 20% of the antimony will help permit it. So from a industry point of view and a professional viewpoint, this is just again another de-risking stage that puts Sunday Creek into a relatively rare class of deposit. It's very high grade. It's becoming very large, and people will now start to take a closer look at this exploration target and the assumptions that we've made around it. And that's why we put a lot of data into this press release on how the basis for this exploration target came about, and the understanding that we have on the style of this mineralization. It's moderate nugget, it's low CV, and the assumptions on the continuity that we're able to make because of those factors. So we always talk about high grade and that we love high grade, but what does actually high grade mean? Well, high grade means that you've got more gold per ton of rock than the majority of mines globally. So the majority of mines average about 1 gram per ton gold, which is about $90 a ton of rock. Now, if you've got a very high grade deposit, say 10 grams, which is at the top of our range, then you've got per ton value of the rocks around about $1,000 a ton. Now, mining costs are fairly fixed, and we haven't done any economic studies, so I can't look to any mining costs in this operation. But if you go and look at Agnico's work at Fosterville, for example, their mining cost and their processing cost and their G&A cost per ton are around about 275 Australian dollars, and I was quoting US dollars before. So you can see the delta between the value of your rock and what it costs you to get out of the ground, and that's why Fosterville was one of the most profitable mines on earth, because it had that delta between the value of the rock and what it costs to get out of the ground, which creates an enormous amount of free cash flow. So that's why we love grade. So Sunday Creek is a rare asset because we've demonstrated it's got multi-million ounce potential at that tier 1 grade. That's without a doubt now, and it's going to get bigger as we make more drill success ideally, and we've indicated all those ways that it could become bigger. It's in a tier 1 jurisdiction. You know, Australia is one of the better mining jurisdictions in the world. The Victorian government is very supportive of bringing these critical metal projects through the permitting process. So we've got a very good government who's willing to permit this project if we do all the right things. Now, there's some other aspects around where we exist also, where we're driving drill rigs up to the project. So our drill cost is lowest quartile, but that can potentially translate into a lot of other beneficial aspects around this project. So driving to site, power to site, in terms of getting energy and fuel to site from be it renewables or otherwise, it will be a relatively lower cost exercise than potentially other projects that are more remote in, a long way from anywhere. So this is an amazingly beautiful project in so many aspects, just beyond that wonderful accumulation of gold and antimony that exists in the ground. Of course, mission critical in any mining project is that you must work and live within a community, and that we do. We've got various stakeholders through the project, from people who live around the project, and we're working very closely with them to keep them informed on the project and how it's developing. We have the local municipality who we work very closely with. We have the local traditional owners who we work very closely with. We have the state government. We have the federal government. So lots of different stakeholders, and there's many more. All our suppliers who supply us. We're spending over $1 million a month in the local community. So we're making differences to people's lives already as we move towards a mine, which is, of course, our aim here. So what is next? Well, we continue to expand this project. We've benchmarked it as a multi-million ounce high-grade deposit and moving towards that, all within the bounds of the confidence of the data with that the exploration target defines. So we're going to continue to make it bigger. We've identified the areas and spoken to those areas where it's going to get bigger. There's only a very small part of a much bigger system. The grades tend to get better at depth. So we'll focus on the higher grade parts of the project, no doubt. So along with that, we're also doing a lot of the de-risking technically, from metallurgical studies to looking at initial mining and how the deposit behaves and the productivity and what that can look like, so we can start articulating those parameters. We're doing a lot of the environmental baseline work, from flora, noise, water. We put in 9 monitoring bores to understand the groundwater. We're doing all the surface water sampling. So de-risking the project and getting all that key baseline data that you'd expect from industry professionals. So I'm talking to you from Toronto, where I'm attending the Metals Investment Forum and the PDAC. That was after visiting Miami over the last few days at the BMO conference down there. So there's a lot of storytelling to some of the best institutions and shareholders, and talking to new shareholders across on this side of the pond, as we say. I look forward to getting back to Australia in a week or so and coming to meet existing and new shareholders through Australia as we continue to be able to tell the story of this wonderful discovery.
Into that area.